Bonds are debt instruments that can be offered to the public by corporations or governments to raise cash. A conventional bond is a long-term debt agreement in which an investor lends money to an organization, either corporate or government, and the agreement stipulates that the corporation must repay the investor's principal plus a certain amount of interest on the bond's maturity date. The goal of conventional bonds trading is typically to generate capital gains by profiting from an increase in the price of fixed interest bond caused by a decline in variable market interest rates. A Sukuk is an Islamic financial certificate that reflects the percentage of ownership in a portfolio of qualifying existing or prospective asset. The funds from the issuance of the certificates are then used by the issuer to acquire the asset, after which the investor are granted a share of ownership in the asset. It is forbidden for a Sukuk to generate speculative income since this would render the investment unfit for Muslim use. The return on a bond is referred to as its effective yield when the bondholder chooses to reinvest the bond's interest payment, also known as coupon, at the same rate. There are several risks of conventional bond. The first one is interest rate risk. Longer the term of the bond, the greater the possibility for an increase in interest rates. Second one is called risk, where there is a significant change in the market interest rate. Conventional bonds are typically susceptible to this risk. And the third one is downgrade risk. This refers to the possibility that the price of a bond may fall as a consequence of a decrease in the bond's credit rating. Sukuk, on the other hand, are compliant with Sharia rules, which means that their operating principles or structures are distinct from those of ordinary bonds. The value of a Sukuk can go up in tandem with the value of the underlying assets, and the value that is due to the holder of a Sukuk at maturity should be the current market value of the underlying asset or company rather than the principal amount that was first invested. While investing in an asset-backed Sukuk, both the profit return and the return on capital are ultimately determined by the underlying asset. There are several risks of Sukuk. The first one is price risk. There is the risk that the value of an asset as the maturity dates will be different from the market price due to the asset's rapid depreciation. Second one is operational risk. The risk of losing money as a result of being delayed in reaping the benefits of the underlying asset as outlined in the lease agreement. And the third one is Sharia compliant risk. Sharia compliant is the risk that Sukuk will not comply with Sharia principle. Each new issue of Sukuk must first receive approval from a Sharia board to ensure that it is complied with Islamic law. The conventional bonds and Sukuk divisions are further divided into the Malaysia fixed income market. The market typically prefers Sukuk over conventional bonds, according to statistics from the Securities Commissions. Nearly 82% of all corporate bonds and Sukuk issuances in 2022 were corporate Sukuk. In 2022, the total amount of Sukuk issued represented 68.2% of the total amount of bonds and Sukuk issued, while the total amount of Sukuk outstanding represented 63.2% of the total amount of bonds and Sukuk outstanding in 2021. In the year 2022, there were 7 corporations in Malaysia that issued SRI Sukuk. This Sukuk had a total value of 10.6 billion ringgit and accounted for 8.5% of the total corporate Sukuk issuance. The total number of SRI Sukuk problems reached 25 as a result of this development. At the same time, the amount of outstanding corporate SRI Sukuk increased to 17.9 billion ringgit at the end of the year. This represents 2.7% of the total of outstanding corporate Sukuk. Based on the comparative performance between Sukuk and conventional bonds, it shows that Sukuk outperform conventional bonds. This is because in this case that there is a considerable need for investment there are in accordance with Sharia such as Sukuk. This may result in greater investor interest and demand for the aforementioned financial instruments. Therefore, because of the strong demand, the price of Sukuk may increase, which may lead to improved performance in comparison to that of conventional bonds. The outperformance of Sukuk in comparison to that of conventional bonds can also be impacted by certain market circumstances such as shift in interest rate conditions, credit conditions and economic conditions which are favorable to Sukuk investment. In the end, the preference of the individual's investor, their level of comfort with risk and their goals for the investment will determine whether they go with Sukuk or conventional bonds.